Polish Christmas table is complete without pierogi. This dish has a long history in Polish cuisine, most likely being made in Poland since as early as the 13th century. It is the perfect winter comfort food that we love to make and share with our family. Today, my beloved fiancé Tymek will show you how to make pierogi ruskie, which is pierogi with potato and cottage cheese filling. An absolute winter classic.
See the blazing hill before us. Strike the harp and join the chorus. Follow me in merry measure while I tell of Yuletide treasure.
Hey guys, so today we're gonna be making the famous Polish pierogis, and I'm gonna start off by just peeling the potatoes. Don't use potatoes that are, well, usually used for French fries because they contain too much starch and you don't really want that, especially in the filling. The most common type of potatoes should be fine.
Fast away the old year passes.
Make sure the potatoes are nice and clean because every dark spot will be visible in the dough, because the dough is light in color, so it will contrast.
This all together, heedless of the wind.
Okay, I'm putting everything into a pot. Keep in mind that you don't really care about the shape because everything will be mashed, so you can just cut it into tinier pieces to speed up the process of cooking. And I'm gonna cook it for about 20 to 25 minutes. I'm peeling onions and just cutting them into very tiny bits. Make sure that they are cut really finely. It's gonna be in the filling and you don't want to have large chunks in it.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly. 'Tis the season to be jolly. Don we now our bright apparel. Join the ancient Yuletide carol.
I'm adding some butter because I like to cook onions with butter. I'm not using any oil or olive oil.
Strike the harp and join the chorus. Follow me in merry measure while I tell of you.
I'm gonna cook the onion for around 10 minutes. I'm adding a pinch of salt. The crucial thing is that you want the onion to be really caramelized. You could even say like slightly burnt, because onion is the one thing or one of the few things besides pepper and salt that will give pierogis the unique taste. You can see that they are pretty dark in color. I'm gonna put it aside to just cool down, and I'm gonna strain the potatoes. And it's important that you put them aside as well and let the water, the excess of water, evaporate. Just let it cool down a bit. Don't rush it.
Heedless of the wind and weather, Christmas chorus, fa la la la, fa la 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 la, fa la la.
I'm separating the potatoes like 1/4 to 3/4. Basically, the 25% will go into the dough itself, and the rest for the filling. I'm using the most common flour. Basically, any flour will go. Pizza flour will be fine as well. I'm adding a tablespoon of salt.
'Tis the season to be jolly. Don we now our bright apparel.
And I'm gonna mash the 1/4 of the potatoes.
Ancient Yuletide carol. Fa-la-la-la-la, fa-la-la-la-la, fa-la-la. See the blazing Yule before us. Strike the harp and join the chorus. Follow me.
Like I'm checking now if there are any larger bits.
While I tell of Yuletide treasure. Fa-la-la-la-la.
I'm gonna add some butter so that the dough is more silky and smooth. I'm just gonna melt it in the microwave for a couple of seconds. Add it to your dough mixture. Add 1 egg. Egg will also make the dough more silky. So I'm mixing the dough right now, mixing all the ingredients, and I'm adding hot water. And this is like one of the most crucial things about pierogis, like one of the most important things. You want to make sure that the water is hot, but not steaming, like not boiling water. Basically, you want to break down the starch molecules. It makes the dough silkier and more smooth in texture. I'm not gonna give you exactly the amount of water that you're gonna need. Just add small amount after small amount and make sure everything combines well. You're gonna feel it underneath your fingers, so to speak. I'm gonna knead the dough now for about 7 to 10 minutes. It is quite a workout, but trust me, it's worth it. It's actually very important to make the dough right, because the dough is basically the most important part of pierogis. So really need to make sure that it's all well combined. So right now I'm basically checking, like if the dough is too dry, I'm adding some water. In this case it wasn't. It was actually a bit too sticky, so I added a little bit of flour.
Follow me in merry measure, while I tell of Yuletide treasure.
Eventually you want a dough that resembles, I would say, beeswax. It shouldn't be rubbery, it should be more like a clay dough. It's like more silky and smooth than the dough that you would normally make for pizza, let's say, or bread. And let it rest. Really let it rest for around 30 minutes. because you want the flour to absorb all the ingredients and absorb the water especially. In the meantime, mash all the potatoes that are left. Also be careful not to leave any larger bits in it. It should be nice and smooth.
The wind and weather, Christmas chorus, fa la la la, fa la 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 la, fa la la la, fa la 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 la, fa la la la, fa la 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 la, fa la la la.
And I'm adding the onions that I cooked before.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly. 'Tis the season to be jolly.
And I'm adding the curd cheese to the potatoes. Make sure you crumble it down so it's easier to combine everything after. You can see the texture of the cheese. From what I know, the texture of the cheese differs in various countries. I'm adding some white pepper. You can also add black pepper or whatever pepper you like. I'm adding salt.
Join the chorus.
Be quite generous with the salt because you have really a lot of filling here and it will just soak up all the salt immediately. I'm combining everything by hand because it's more convenient and easier. You might find it gross, but hey, that's what my grandmother did, so it's just way quicker than just using spoon or something. You want to have a feeling that is like one, basically. Everything is combined, is perfectly smooth and sort of sticky. I added a little bit more salt. Just try the feeling. Try it, taste it. It is actually very tasty right now. I mean, you could eat it if you want, just as it is. Taste it and make sure it tastes nice, because you're not gonna have the chance to add more spices later.
Sing rejoice all together, heedless of the.
I'm preparing some plates for just laying down the assembled pierogis. I'm covering it with semolina flour. You can use any flour or breadcrumbs, just not to make them stick. The dough is nice and ready. You can see that it is really it is incredibly smooth and silky. And now I'm just gonna roll the dough.
Deck the halls with.
I'm using the same rolling pin my grandma used, by the way. Like, my mother had it for like 30 years and now I am having it. It is like our family heirloom. The holy rolling pin.
Join the ancient Yuletide carol.
I'm adding some flour so that the dough doesn't stick. I'm also turning it upside down and again, so that everything is rolled out nice and smooth. You should make sure that the dough isn't too thick. It should be actually pretty thin on the table. Pierogis should be more about the feeling, not about the dough. And now I'm using this special tool that you can buy in Poland. It basically cuts out little circles, but you can also use a glass, you can use a jar, basically everything that is round and has some sharp edges. I'm just taking away the excess of dough, and I'm gonna incorporate it. I'm gonna knead it into the rest of the dough so that it doesn't go to waste.
Fast away the old year passes.
So now I have the circles, and let's start assembling pierogis. It's actually pretty simple. You can use the tool that you can see here, but I don't know if you can find this wherever you live. But I'm gonna show you two ways on how to do this. So you basically put, like, I would say 2 teaspoons of filling into the middle of the circle. Yeah, I'm using a little bit, I'm touching it with a little bit of water so that it sticks together. And I'm folding the pieróg, and it's just one thing, basically it combines. And there it is. So I'm gonna do it by hand right now, which I find it more convenient. So again, I'm adding like 2 teaspoons of the filling. I'm putting some water onto the edges so that it sticks better. And I'm basically folding it. I'm folding the middle and then going back to the sides. So I'm first the middle and then you go to the sides. And then you basically press it and twist your fingers so that the dough, the layers combined, basically become one thing. And this is actually something crucial. This is like one of the most important things about the pierogis. You really don't want to have a visible seam. It is crucial that there is no such thing. It has to be like one thing. It has to become one. Because otherwise, when you start boiling them, they may fall apart. And when they fall apart, you're gonna have a mess in your pot. You really don't want that. You see, it's like one piece. There is no separation in the dough layers. So let's make some more. Don't be afraid of using water. When you are assembling them, if you see that your dough is too dry, because it will dry out because it's standing there for a couple of minutes, basically the water is evaporating. Don't fear the water. Like if you have issues with assembling the pierogis, just use water.
Heedless of the wind and weather, Christmas chorus, fa la la la, fa la 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 la.
You see, there is no seam whatsoever. It's just one thing, everything combined, nice and smooth. It's not sticking to anything. The dough is perfectly silky. It's actually a nice thing to like assemble the pierogis in the family. Basically, every family member you spend your noon combining pierogis. Like the whole family just glues them together.
'Tis the season to be jolly.
And that's done. You can actually, just like that, when they are still raw, you can put them into the freezer. That's also fine. You can make them, like a week after or something. It shouldn't be a problem. Nothing should happen to them.
See the blazing new before us.
Okay, so I'm gonna do the skewers right now, or cracklings, or pork cracklings, or however they are called. And that's what traditionally you eat pierogis with here. So this is basically bacon, like the just most usual bacon you can find.
A treasure.
So I'm just cutting it into tiny bits. You don't have to preheat your pan for bacon. You start with a cold pan because you want to render out the fat. Don't put the bacon on a preheated pan.
Heedless of the wind and weather.
You see, so all the fat basically comes out of the meat. And in the very same fat, I'm gonna cook one more onion. And in this case, you really don't have to caramelize the onion too much. So I'm preparing the water right now. Just bring it up to a boil. Lower the heat a little bit so that the water movement is not so intense, because the pierogis may fall apart if it's like boiling too much. And just start putting pierogis in. Make sure that you have enough water in the pot, like preferably take a pot that is large enough and put like 10 to 15 pierogis. Don't put too much because they can like stick to each other. If they stick to each other, they may fall apart, and you can have a mess in your pot, basically.
Strike the harp and join the chorus. Follow me in merry measure while I tell of Yuletide treasure.
They should cook for around 3 to 4 minutes. You want them to go out to the surface. So basically when they go up, it means they are ready. I just added some oil so that they don't stick to each other.
Fast away the old year passes. Hail the new year, lads and lasses.
I usually tend to let them go up and stay there for like, I'm cooking them for like 1 more minute to make sure that they are like cooked through. And then I take them out.
Wind and weather, Christmas chorus, fa la 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 la.
Yeah, just shake off the excess of water, and that's it.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly. 'Tis the season to be jolly. Don we now our bright apparel. Join the ancient Yuletide.
They are ready to eat. You just want to cover them with the cracklings and pork fat. But you can also eat them like that. You really don't need the meat if you don't want to. It's entirely optional.
Strike the harp and join the chorus. Follow me in merry measure.
And that's it. The true comfort food.